Welcome to Small Arm Solutions. I had a lot of responses to my last video that I did on cloning the M16A4, and I was asked to do a video on the M4 as well. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, just like the M16A4, probably even much more so with the M4, there are thousands and thousands of veterans who are returning from Afghanistan and Iraq who carried the M4. Not to mention pretty much anybody in the U.S. military. Now, since the M4 is pretty much standard throughout the U.S. military, with the exception really of the Marine Corps, the M4 is undoubtedly the most popular of all the rifles. Now, for as far as building M4 carbines, every manufacturer in the industry has a basic M4, which is going to have all the features. Generally, they're going to come with the round handguards, not the rail systems. So they can be had from anybody. Bushmaster, Delton, Colt, LMT, FN, DPMS, Olympic. Just pretty much anybody will get you the profile barrel. Now, to actually make it look just like, as much as possible, the M4 that you carried, there's a couple models that we're going to be looking at right now. The first model is going to be the M4 that is produced by FNMI, or FN USA, I should say. This is their M4 Collector Series. This one here is a one-shop stop and buy, where basically it has everything that's needed. This normally will have a broom handle on it, but this one did not come with that. So my guess is it was just missing from the box. But it will come with the broom handle. And this is the basic configuration that the U.S. military receives the M4 in. So this is a one-shop stop. The next one we're going to look at is the Colt LE6920. This is not the condition that the LE6920 came in. This actually had the round handguards, and it had the detachable carrying handle on it. And I also will talk about the UID code a little bit later, and this selector a little bit differently as well. So we'll talk about the things that I had actually changed on it. Interestingly enough, when you look at the two of these rifles, they both have really interesting features. So I guess you would have to look at them and decide what's the most important thing to you. For as far as the Colt rifles go, the LE6920 is your basic M4 with a 16-inch barrel. That really is the only real difference. The more current M4s that are put out by Colt, they're not as much as the older ones when Colt was still in full production of the M4s. But there's some things that Colt can do that nobody else can do, especially for as far as the markings go on them. And basically having all the the barrels, the components, having the proper forge codes, the proper labeling, and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to go through. Colt does offer one model that would come in this condition. They call it the LE6920 SOCOM. Now, the interesting thing about the SOCOM is depending on when you bought it. Some of the earlier ones had the proper RAS, M4 RAS handguard on them. Well, a lot of the newer ones have a handguard on them, but it's not the RAS. It's one manufactured by Troy. So it would not be the exact M4 RAS that is military issue. And also, for as far as the backup sights are concerned, I have seen some with Magpul sights, but I've also seen other ones with the Matek. The other thing is the M4 SOCOM, they call it the M4A1 actually. It has a heavy barrel. Now, for as far as it being a SOCOM barrel, if you were to look at the profile of the M4 SOCOM barrel versus a true M4A1 barrel, you'll see that they're completely different. I don't just mean in the actual length, but if you look at the actual profile, the actual SOCOM barrel has two slabs that are cut in it in the material to allow the attachment of the M203 grenade launcher. The SOCOM barrel does not have that. You would not be able to attach that grenade launcher to that one. Again, that's under the handguards, but I'm going to pick things apart just because of the fact that I'm a stickler for details when it comes to authenticity and what makes something more so than anything else. But for as far as the base rifle to build a true M4 clone, you can really start with anybody's carbine. I mean, it's just it doesn't matter what you can get your hands on. Obviously, for as far as the quality is concerned, the Colts and the FNs and the LMTs are going to be your top tier compared to a lot of the other ones. There's certain configurations that Colt had to deliver the U.S. military, and it had to have a certain stock, which the one you see here. They all had the M4 RAS handguards, even though we have the M4 PIP program, which mandated the replacement of the RAS with a new free-floating handguard. To my knowledge, that plan was canceled along with all the other M4 PIP. The program was started. They were actually changing the barrels on the M4s to M4A1 heavy barrel, silicone barrels. They were getting rid of the burst mechanism, going back to auto. And they were running with an ambidextrous safety as well as ambidextrous bolt magazine release, the Norgon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over these two rifles in detail and show you what some of the differences are between the two. And you have to look for yourself and see which of the criteria is more important for you, and some of the things that you actually have done yourself. Okay, first one we're going to look at is the FN Military Collector Series M4. What you see right here, also it's going to have the broom handle on it. This is exactly how it comes from the factory. So basically it has everything that you need already done to it to make it as close to an M4 as possible. I'm going to point out some of the differences between the Colt in this one. But first of all, we're going to go, you actually see the mil-spec M4 stock. FN does have their logo in here. That's a little different. The mil-spec ones have no markings on there at all. But this is something for them to say that it's theirs. You do have a 4-position receiver extension. You do have a staked-in receiver extension nut. Also notice that you do have an ambidextrous safety on these. This would be true for a PIP rifle. Say where the rifle was to go through the PIP program, it would have had the ambi safety added to it. This does have safe fire and auto. Again, usually it's safe semi-auto, but the auto would be correct, again, for a PIP gun, where they got rid of the burst and they went to auto. It does have the correct MOTTEC backup sight. Also notice the UID code. The UID code is put on pretty much all U.S. government property. What it does is it gives you the manufacturer's cage code, the part number, and the serial number, and it gives you the barcode on the side, which makes it much easier for inventory when weapons are being handed out or any government property. Basically, all you're doing is just swapping that. That's the neat thing. There's only a couple companies that really do anything with that. FN, obviously, here's one of them. The FN SCARs can come with those occasionally, and also the LWRCI rifles, they'll come with them as well. But that is something that there is definitely a desire for, and we're going to go over that with when we go over the Colt. Again, you have the proper M4 RAS. You have all 4 handguards, the rail protectors. Again, you would have the broom handle on there. The barrel is something we want to take a look at because this is the thing that's truly unique about the FN rifle. This is an actual 14.5-inch barrel with a welded on or pinned on flash suppressor, so it does get you up to your legal lengths. This is the thing that's done uniquely by FN. So when this rifle comes to you, basically you have a very similar condition to the M4 by having that barrel length, so you can put your bant lug on it. It does have the side swivel, and it also has the correct F-mark front sight base, which is important for the flat top upper receiver. Now, if you look at the markings on here as well, this is the actual FN military marking. They call it the football marking, FN. It's not the typical stylized FN that you're used to seeing. Obviously, you can't say property U.S. government on it for obvious reasons. You'll also see that it says FNH USA, Fredericksburg, Virginia. The actual military rifles are made in their Columbia, South Carolina facility. That's FNMI. FN USA is the commercial area. Now, FN has to be careful when they build these rifles because they are building the rifles for the U.S. government. They have to be sure that they're not using that TDP that they use for the U.S. government for any of their commercial guns. So their actual manufacturing of these rifles is a complete separate operation in a whole different facility. It's definitely something that they have to keep track of because if it's found out they were using that TDP, there could be lawsuits from the U.S. government as well as Colt. So this is a separate company than the one that's actually manufacturing the U.S. government guns. Now we're going to take a look a little bit on the inside. It does use the proper H buffer. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but if you were to able to see inside here, you'll see that it has the proper. It is the proper M4 receiver or barrel extension, which has the extended feed ramps, and you will also see the extended feed ramps on the upper receiver. So this is all the mil-spec M4. And now we're going to go by just tiny details that most people wouldn't care about, but since I'm a stickler for details. Now, if this was an actual FN military rifle, you would have marked on the barrel, the side of the bolt carrier, FN. As you can see, there's nothing marked on there. And on the actual bolt itself, it would be marked MPF, F for FN. These are not marked that. They're marked MP, so they are proof-tested, magnetic particle inspected, but they did not put the actual military markings on these, which could very well be due to the CDP licensing rifles. Also, you'll notice on the actual upper receiver itself, usually you have a forging code. You do have one there for accurate forge, but you also don't have the F on it that you normally would have with the FN military rifles. Also, the barrel is marked differently. This particular barrel, if you can see, is marked 3S679, which is actually FN's cage code, magnetic particle inspection 5.56 NATO 1/7. This is not a Colt Hammer Forged barrel. This is actually a standard button cut rifled barrel, which is mandated by the U.S. government. The normal barrels would say FNMI MP, so these would not be the same barrels as they would use in their military guns. So, with the exception of those military codes on some of those components, the rifle is exactly what you would need to have it as close to perfect as possible. Again, the real benefit to this one is it's a one-shop stop. You don't have to go looking for other parts or change any parts out. Now we're going to take a look at the Colt. Again, the Colt itself, I had to do some work on. This started out life as a standard LE6920, which means it did have the proper stock on it. Everything here was correct, except for the backup sight. I had to add the backup sight. It had the standard M4 double heat shield round handguards. I had to replace it with the M4 RAS. And the barrel itself is the full 16.1 inches with the flash suppressor, rather than having the original 14.5. Now, this is totally subjective. 16 inches is probably the ideal barrel length for a 5.56 millimeter. You get more accuracy, some more dwell time than you do with the 14.5 inch. The bullet actually performs a lot better, and quite frankly, I like the 16-inch barrel a lot better than the 14.5 inch barrel. But this is a U.S. mil-spec barrel, which is 16 instead of 14.5 inches. It has the actual U.S. military markings of Colts, CMP 5.56 NATO 1/7. Again, Colt is able to do this because they are the owners of the M4. They own the TDP, they own all the technical data. They can mark these things however they want to mark them. So that's the one thing you're going to have with the Colt rifle is you will have all of the U.S. government markings. If we look back, we'll see the Colt forging code with the forging code as well. Colt, and you have I believe that is 0. I don't recall off the top of my head. But anyways, we have a staked on receiver extension nut, U.S. mil-spec stock. Now, the selector lever, I mentioned this in the last couple of videos that I did, but I'll mention it again for those of you who haven't seen the other one. While I worked at Colt, this was one of the only things I was able to accomplish, believe it or not, was I had noticed that all the Colt rifles, none of them had safe and fire on the right side of the lower receiver. So I put through two engineering change orders. One was to have the roll marked safe and fire on the right hand side, and the second one was to actually put the notch on the selector, so from the right, if you for a left-hand shooter could look at that and see what condition the rifle was in. Well, oddly enough, in Colt's infinite wisdom, they decided to approve the roll mark, but they disapproved to have the notch put in there. They basically, the engineering department there just claimed that due to the fact you can actually remove the pistol grip, remove the detent, and swap the safety around, that's why you have it on the right side. Well, I totally disagree with that, because even if you were to rotate it to the other side, then over here you wouldn't know what condition you were in without having that notch on there. So I replaced the safety with one that actually had the proper notch on it. The next thing we're going to look at is the UID code. No, it did not come with this. I actually had this made up. Now I'm going to give you guys some information here. get my cheat sheet out here. For those of you who are interested in having UID codes, these are something that are commercially available. You can order these. There are companies that will order them for you. You definitely have to make sure you know what style that you want. If you were to compare this one to the one on the FN, there's two different styles. One's rectangular in shape and one's square in shape. So the company that I had to do this was called Camcode, CAMCODE. The guy who I work with, his name was Randy UVEGS. His telephone number is 216-714-0040. When I spoke with him when I had these made, he said that they were open to doing them for gun enthusiasts. Basically, what I did was I told him, okay, this is the cage code that I want. This is the model number that I want, and I gave him the serial number for this rifle. And he uses the actual serial number, so this is the serial number of this rifle. The actual part number on here is for the M4 carbine, which, this is the LD6920, but it's still for all intents and purposes, for mine purposes anyways, an M4 carbine. Again, 17V, and then the Colt's cage code. Now, if you have an FN, you can use FN's cage code, which is 3S679. I know you'll see cage codes for Colt. You'll find them for FN, LWR, CI. I do believe LMT has a cage code as well, and there's some other ones that also may. But you just got to be able to tell them exactly what you want, what style, your numbers, your serial numbers. And again, I spoke to this guy. Let me give you his email as well. Is ruveges@camcode.com. For as far as the price is concerned, I'm not sure. Basically, I had these made in agreement that I would show them. Maybe bring them some business. But for any of you guys who want to do that, it's very easy to do, and it's not that expensive. Looking on the left side here, this is all standard. It actually says Colt M4 Carbine instead of law enforcement carbine, which is one of their newer receivers, of course. Looking at the left side of the rifle, again, you have your proper sling swivel, F-mark front sight post. This is obviously the newer lower receiver that says M4 Carbine on it. Now we're going to take a look in the inside. In the lower receiver, we have the proper H-mark buffer. Now here's another benefit that you will have with the Colt versus anybody else's. Looking at the Colt bolt carrier group, you can see the proper C that's on the Colt bolt carrier group to identify it as Colt. And also, if you look on the top of the right behind the locking lugs, you'll see MPC. This is the U.S. government marks for magnetic particle proof tested by Colt. The extractor will also have the C on it, and that will identify this bolt carrier group as being Colt and mil spec. You'll see the extended feed ramps on both the barrel extension as well as the upper receiver, indicating this is the proper M4 upper receiver assembly and barrel extension. We also happen to have both the second and third generation magazines here. You can see the second generation with the green follower and the third generation with the tan follower. There is now a fourth generation enhanced performance magazine that's designed specifically for the M855A1 ammunition. I don't currently have one of those. I'm actually trying to seek one out, and at some point when I do have that magazine, I'm going to do a little bit of a video on the different magazines for the military versions of these rifles as well. So if you were to purchase any kind of a rifle that was basically an M4 type rifle, you can certainly go to many different manufacturers and buy the Motec backup sites. You can certainly have no problem finding the M4 RASs anywhere. The stocks themselves, there is a difference between the mil spec stocks and some of the commercial stocks. Some of the commercial stocks, you'll actually have like an arch on here instead of it being squared off like this. Those are more of the commercial stocks. For as far as the if you want to do more of the product improvement one, you can certainly get yourself the ambidextrous safety as well as the Norgon ambidextrous magazine release. But again, if you just want to do it, you just want to get one you don't have to worry about, this FN is an awesome selection for the Colt. Again, you just want to pay attention to whether you buy a Colt SOCOM, whether you have the actual RAS or not, or you get one of the Troy handguards. Again, the Troy handguard has nothing to do with the actual U.S. government gun. I'm not sure why Colt had done that, but these are the two. These are, in my opinion, are probably the two best that are out there. You can see the differences are the actual barrel length on the Colt versus the barrel length on the FN. But for as far as here back, the biggest difference between the two is this one just has the U.S. government marks. The Colts has the U.S. government markings. Again, the forage codes, the bolts, the bolt carrier, the extractor. This one doesn't, but then again, those are internal parts. For as far as cost between the two of these, I think they'd probably be about the same cost when you were done with it. The Colt would probably be a little bit more because they're generally, you're probably looking at $1,100, $1,200 for the base gun. Usually you're looking at about $300 for the RAS system, and this is usually, and the backup sight's probably usually a couple $100 as well. So cost effectively, probably the FN would be a better way to go on that. But we're going to give you the information again on the manufacturers of these UID codes that you'll be able to contact if you want to get some of these made. Please leave a comment below if you guys have any more questions on this, and I'll try to answer any questions that you have. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, and please subscribe. Thank you very much.